Good evening. My name is N.Z. Washington. Several years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer. In the year of 2004, I was seeking a church because before the late Elzora Washington died, my mom, she said, "Son, you need to find you a church." And I always told my mom that I would. But during the year that she died, I was still without a church home. But in the year of 2004, my family and I found a church. And we joined because of the people, because of their warm-hearted, and because of the love that they showed. And mostly because they was a group of people that believed and trusted in God and did a lot of praying. Unbeknown to me at the time, the members of that church was going to play a very important part in my life. The following month, one evening while showering, I was rubbing along my neck, and I ran across a lump. And I didn't tell my wife what I had found, but I asked her to rub my neck. And as she began to rub my neck, she ran across the lump. And she got all excited. But I told her it would probably go down in the next few days. But she was so worried that she just said that you need to go see a doctor as soon as possible. And the following day I was able to get in and to my primary doctor-physician office. But at that time I was unable to see him. But I saw one of his associates. And after I told them while I was there, they came across the lump. And the first thing out of their mouth was that it's not supposed to be there. And they inquired if I had a ENT, and I told them no. So they said there's one just across the hall. And they called and made an appointment. I was able to go see him the next day. Not knowing that God was at work already. And when I saw the ENT and they did some blood work and they scheduled me for some x-rays. And when the x-rays and the blood work came back, he said, "I'm going to have to schedule for surgery. Because we want to take a biopsy of that and to find out what it was." And as they proceeded with the surgery and the results came back, the news wasn't that good. And he said that, "I hate to tell you this, but The biopsy came back cancerous. And at that time, that hit me very hard. Because, you know, the doctor's always asking, did you smoke this and that and that? And my response was no. So I was scheduled to, after the surgery, I was scheduled to go see a radiologist. And we went over the plan as for the radiation and the chemo treatment. But after he reviewed my records, his prognosis was that I can only see that you might not survive 3 months. And once hearing those words, it turned me and my wife upside down. Because it just made me recall that my father died at an early age of 51. And this year, 2004, would be my 51st birthday. And as I sat there, I was thinking to myself that I might not make it. And all these thoughts began to run through my mind. What would I tell my children? That in a few months that I might not be here any longer. What am I supposed to do? Where would I turn? But as I was going through my radiation and chemo treatment, I recall some of the wise words that my mother once told me. And she said, son, no matter what you are going through, there's always someone who is worse than you. And during my visits over to the Sylvester Center, I could see what she meant. Because there was other patients that was diagnosed with the head and neck cancer that was in worse condition than I was. They wasn't able to speak. They wasn't able to eat. Some of them had their voice box removed. But from my radiation, it did burn my neck. It made my neck look like it was a hot pepper, that it was so bright. And when people saw me, they thought that I was in such excruciating pain that they turned their heads away from it. But through God's grace and mercy, I didn't have any pain. And as we proceeded to talk about the best ways for my treatment, one of the things that my radiologist mentioned was that to be sure that what we need to do is to remove all of your lymph nodes on your right side. And when he said that, that just didn't agree with my spirit. So as he was speaking, I was praying to God. Lord, if that's your will, Lord, help me along. If that's your will. But if it's not your will, Lord, let me know. And although the doctor was saying they must come out, I was saying no. So I asked to go and have a second opinion. And as I went over to Sylvester and spoke with another ENT, and as he reviewed the records, and as he did an examination, he said, I don't feel any lumps. And I don't see anything in your x-ray except for the spots on the other side that they are talking about. But he said, I believe those spots are from your radiation treatment. But what we can do, Mr. Washington, is we can keep an eye on it. But for right now, I don't see that there's no need for us to proceed with any type of surgery on your left side. And although I was unable to eat, but during that time, two ladies that knew my wife stopped by one Sunday afternoon. And as they knocked on the door and as I got up to go and open, the first words out of their mouth was, Brother Washington, God told us to tell you that you are already healed. God was already working it out. Those words just reassured me that God was in control. Then a few months before my birthday, I prayed and I asked God if He would allow me to eat. And I left it at that. And when my birthday came around, and my wife was in the kitchen cooking, and the food was smelling so good, and I hadn't eaten or tasted anything in quite some time. So I asked her to bring me a plate of food, and she began to laugh, saying, boy, you know you can't have anything to eat. But I kept on begging her to bring me a plate. And then she did, and as I sat there and as I said grace, and as I began to put the food towards my mouth, I was able to eat. And I was thankful for that. But the next morning when I woke up, and once again my wife was in the kitchen cooking breakfast, and since I ate last night, I just knew I could eat that morning. But to my surprise, I went right back to the way I was. I couldn't eat through my mouth, but I had to eat through my feeding tube. But the Lord was gracious, and the Lord heard my cry, and the Lord heard my plea. Because what I asked for was that I be able to eat on my birthday. So whenever we are asking God for something, we have to be sure and careful for what we are asking. Because he did deliver, because I asked for one day, my birthday. And he did give me my birthday of being able to eat. And on my follow-up visit back to the doctor, and they did some more x-rays, and on the x-rays was some more spots showed up in my sinus area. And as they reviewed the x-rays, they said, Mr. Washington, it looks like you have inflammation in your sinus, but there's nothing to worry about. Because when you complete your radiation, your chemo, we will schedule at the end, towards the end of the year, cleaning that out. So as the end of the year approached and I had the surgery, but when I woke up, the doctor said, Mr. Washington, you are a blessed man. He said, what we thought was inflammation in your sinus was worse than that. He said, what we found was fungal ball in your sinus. And he said, all it took was one speck of that fungus to break off and get into your bloodstream, and there would have been nothing that any doctors or anyone could do for you. He said once it got into your bloodstream, you would have died. But you see, God was in control of the situation. God knew what was in my sinus. See, even the doctors, with all their technology and all their schooling, they still couldn't say that what was in your sinus was fungus until they actually went in. So God knew what was going on. But even at my weakest moment, when I was taking my chemo, when my immune system was down so low, when it was the opportune time for that fungus to just break off a little bit, and it could have did all this harm at that point. You see, what the devil intended for harm, God used it and turned it out for his goodness. See, God kept that fungus in that tight ball throughout my radiation and throughout my chemo. And he kept it there until the doctors went in and took it out. So no matter what we might be going through, no matter what the doctors might say, for we are not putting our trust in the doctors, but we are putting our trust in God. Although our days might be dark, our days might be gloomy, but those dark days and those gloomy days shall pass. And as the storm is over, the sun is going to shine. So no matter what you might be going through, when you can't seem to find your way. Know that God is in control and that He will see you through.
Committed to your service, your blessed will.
Yes, to your blessed will.
Use my hands, Lord, use my feet. I want you to use every part of me. I want you to use.
I want you to use me.
I want you to use me. I'll say it again. Lord, take my life. And I want you to let it be. I want to be used. Totally committed to your service. Yes, sir.
Yes, to your blessed will.
Use my hand, Lord, use